In the year 1990, the world heard a startling announcement. For the first time in history, witches from across the globe agreed to hold an international conference. Their chosen ground? Benin City, Nigeria. Benin City, rich with history, rooted in tradition, and humming with culture, suddenly became the stage for spiritual confrontation. Nearly 9,800 witches were expected to converge, boasting that no power on earth or in heaven, not even God, could stop them. The announcement shook the nation. News outlets, communities, and congregation whispered in fear. But in the same city lived a man of extraordinary faith, the Archbishop Benson Idhahosa. His journey began at 17 when a life-changing encounter with Christ set him ablaze with passion. From humble house fellowships, he rose to become one of Africa's most fiery preachers, known for his boldness, his authority, and a faith that refused to compromise.
I and they that God has given me, we are made for signs and wonders.
As word of the witches' conference spread, the nation buzzed with fear. Markets, homes, and churches whispered with on ears. But Benson Idhahosa spoke with unflinching resolve on television, radio, and from the pulpit.
Years ago, Pastor Him, all the witches in the world met in Chicago to hold their first conference in Africa. You know where they want to hold it? My city. My city. And their chief host granted the network interview and said the first universal conference of witches and wizards is going to hold in Benin. And I said, what? Where? They said, where I live. So I said, it's not true. Everybody says, not true. I didn't hear you. One more time. And the press said, what is not true? I said, they can't come. They said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to kill all of them. And they called the chief host and said, Dr. Idhahosa said, you can't hold the meeting. He said, not even God can stop it. I will bring you the newspaper. He said, not even God can stop it. And the press said, listen to what this man said. He said, not even God. I said, he's correct. They said, he's correct. I said, yes. They said, why? I said, because God shouldn't waste his time. I'm here.
One organizer boldly mocked, even God cannot stop this meeting. Benson Idhahosa replied, God doesn't need to waste his time. I am here. It was more than a statement. It was a declaration of war. The day grew tense. Rumors spread. Some feared for Idhahosa's life. Others wondered if the witches truly possessed powers. But Idhahosa's conviction never wavered. As the day approached, the world watched. Tension filled the atmosphere. Then, the unexpected happened.
And the media men came to my house. They said, Dr. Idhahosa, you are taking a risk. I said, what? They said, be careful. I said, people who take care don't take charge. And people who take charge don't take care. For my Bible says, be careful for nothing. And they said, are you ready to face the camera to tell the whole nation what you are saying? And which I called this man. I said, call two of us. And they brought him to the studio, and they brought me to the studio. And the anchor man said, gentlemen, I don't want anyone to die among you. Chief host, are you really sure you are bringing 9,800 witches from all over the world? He said, yes. Dr. Idhahosa, are you sure you are going to stop the meeting? I said, I'm not going to stop it. I've stopped it. And they brought us to the camera. And they asked him, I said, they asked him, tell us how strong witches are. And he told us. For 27 minutes, he quoted from the Old Testament, from 6 and 7 book of Moses, from Egyptian books, from Israeli book, from British book, from magical book. And they said to me, did you hear him? I said, yes. They said, what do you say? I said, I have nothing to say. The meeting is cancelled. They said, why? And I opened my Bible. No divination spirit. No incantation spirit shall stand the presence of the righteous. And at the end, I said, how many minutes more? They said 5. I said, it's time for me to kill this man. I said, sir, just answer me one word and I kill you. And everybody began to panic. I said, say yes or no. Are you a witch? He said, no. I said, get up. The next morning, he came to my office to collect a Bible. And they still met him. The media left us, and they still went to his house. With the meeting hold, yes. 7 days more. 3 days more. With the meeting hold, yes. And they came to me. Are you sure the meeting is cancelled? I said, no comment. If the meeting hold, I set fire in my Bible. And they said, what is your power? I said, my power is in the Bible. Whatsoever you lose on earth is loose in heaven. Whatsoever you bind on earth is bound in heaven. And they said, but 2 days more. I said, don't waste your time. The next morning, I went to the president's office. And I said, I've told the whole nation, and you are aware, that there's no meeting of the witches and wizards. He said, the day you were on TV, I sent telex to all the embassies in the world not to allow one wizard to come to Nigeria.
Then military ruler Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida issues an instruction that prevents the witches from obtaining visas. Plans crumbled, confidence wavered, International Conference of Witches was cancelled. What was declared unstoppable has been stopped. For believers across Nigeria, it was no mere coincidence. It was a sign, proof that faith, when boldly lived, would disarm even the darkest threats. Archbishop Benson Idhahosa emerged not just as a preacher, but as a defender of faith, a man who dared to stand, a voice that echoed across the nations.
Everybody shout hallelujah!